There you go. Now you just walk around like you're in pumps.
How do you know what it's like to walk in pumps?
I didn't always work in space.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thanks, Amos, for the intro. Today, I am inspired by a post which I briefly saw on the subreddit. Not a place I spend a lot of time in, but I saw a post there talking about the state of games journalism and critical questions that we need answered as a community. And so I'm going to pick up the torch and run with it here. I feel a little bit about the Dark and Darker Reddit community like I guess Obi-Wan feels about the Mos Eisley spaceport. I don't spend a lot of time there, and I can no longer find a link to this conversation that was taking place there, but it's talking about, you know, kind of forcing Iron Mace to speak with data about some of their decision-making processes and how the community is not currently being served. So, in the spirit of serving the community and getting some hard answers to some hard questions, I am putting up what my questions would be in an interview to Iron Mace. I am freely giving this to the community at large. One Peg or any of the podcasts, if you guys would like to use these questions verbatim or this structure, I encourage you to do so. At the end of the day, all I really want are the answers. So jumping in, on May 3rd, SDF announced the rollback patch and had a whole bunch of good developer comments providing kind of high-level context for the change. He said, "We would like to thank everyone who helped us with our multiclassing experiment. We learned a ton from this system and from your feedback. Here are our thoughts we'd like to share." He goes on into some detail about the mechanics of the change. Here are my follow-up questions. What were the key pieces of community feedback which influenced your decision to roll back multiclassing? How did this experiment affect the player base from an active player perspective, i.e., what was the average number of daily players at the start of the experiment, and what was the average number of daily players at its end? How can this level of disruption be better managed in future chaotic experiments? What are the key data and system takeaways from the multi-class experiment? I.e., what was the most popular base class which was played during that time period? What were the top 5 class perks and the top 5 class skills used during that experiment? How will these data points inform future class balancing? What were some of the most significant unintended interactions you, the developers, found during the experiment? Now, that last question is intended to be a follow-up. In the longer post which SDF put up on the 3rd, he talked about how important unintended interactions between classes and perks were discovered, and I'm just interested in more context around that one statement. What were these interactions that they found that were unintended, and how are those going to be managed going forward? Have they already been removed, etc.? So in the background here, I am playing some Slayer Fighter, and I'm running silent. I'm just kind of camping this extract here in normal goblin caves. I'm going to kill a couple people, and I will definitely pause the overall conversation so we can enjoy that action when it arises. But you can understand how I've been framing these questions. I'm asking for more data. And I think that's data that's really important to be shared. And Iron Mace has a very splotchy history with regard to sharing actual data points, and I'm not really sure why. It only helps provide a broader context for us, the players, and it helps understand what's driving some of the decisions that they're making, ostensibly at random sometimes. But regardless. So yeah, we hear somebody really close on the other side of this door smashing those crates. And here he comes. All right, my plan is to let him walk through this door here, but for whatever reason, he doesn't take the bait. I've got to go in on him. Sprint, double headshot. He gets a potion off too late. Nice jukes there. Last head stab gets him. All right, so let's get back to the interview. So talking about design, direction, and momentum, I think one of the greatest complaints that we've heard from the community as a whole is it just seems to have a lack of direction. So simply put, Iron Mace, what is your creative vision for the game? Please describe to us the game you are trying to make. Follow-ups include, what is the role of PvP and PvE in that game versus more traditional RPG mechanics and systems like level-gated abilities and exploration? How do you plan to strike a balance? So Dark and Darker wears its Tarkov inspiration on its sleeve. When you're done, what game will Dark and Darker most likely resemble in terms of its core gameplay loop? So a while back, Iron Mace made very clear that it was designing and focusing on trios gameplay, but since that time, they've introduced both the solo and the duo queue. Logical follow-ups: how has the introduction of these new additional game modes changed the overall design perspective? Are you, Iron Mace, still planning on balancing the game around trios? I think these are very valid questions, which I hear asked all the time, both in the comments sections of these videos that I make, as well as on Discords and on the subreddit. I would just like a pretty clear, concise explanation about the overall direction the game is taking. Now, right around the corner, we hear somebody else smashing pots. I'm still running silent. I think there's a 0% chance that this guy has heard me. So I'm going to lay in wait and wait for him to round this corner. He's getting closer. He's fighting a goblin. Patience is key. Now, Koopa, you might ask, why are you playing so slow in Goblin Caves? Isn't that deathmatch mode? Sort of. I was actually writing these questions while I was in this game, so I was a little distracted and happy to sit here and wait for flies to come into my web. There he is. I missed the crossbow shot. He turtles up. I'm going to miss a couple of swings real fast as he's juking around. All it takes is that one headshot. That should get him out of turtle. There he is. Now let's get some dagger action. I've had this question a couple times. Why do I switch to dagger on shield users? I find it easier to get in over the block with the Castilian dagger. I just like it. All right. Another player down. Let's get back to the interview. So gear-based matchmaking and player demographics. So gear-based matchmaking is another divisive subject in the community. How do you think this test is going so far? What was the driving purpose for the introduction of this system? And how are you measuring success for this experiment? Moving on, it's been a while since Iron Mace has shared any demographics for the game. What is the current percentage breakdown of player base by normals and high roller games? Also, what's the current percentage breakdown of the player base for solos, duos, and trios? So at its core, gear-based matchmaking seems extremely popular to game for additional advantage. What is the distribution of players across the full spectrum of all the gear-based matchmaking silos? AKA, how are players falling into the multiple categories of gear that you've created in that system? Are you okay, Iron Mace, with this current distribution? And if not, what are your plans to fix it? So map choice and player agency seem to regularly be at odds with the overall low player count and/or player concentration. How do you plan to increase the number of available maps while maintaining a high player concentration? Additionally, the quest system's focus on map-specific quests seems like an exacerbating factor in player frustration. Have you considered making the quest progression less map-specific, and how would you implement those changes? I think these are important questions. But before that, I did dip out on that cleric fight. Didn't need to take it. I didn't like that he was already buffed coming around the corner. Bird in the hand and all that. Moving on. So cheating in RMT. These have been topics going on in the background since the game went to early access, but we don't really get anything more than kind of mission statements, and so I want to ask some real questions about cheating, RMT, and the effectiveness of the countermeasures that have been put into place by Iron Mace. So starting with the frame, cheating is a big issue in competitive multiplayer games. At the highest level, Iron Mace, can you please describe your process for kicking and then keeping cheaters out of this game, from identification of a cheater all the way through account termination? In your own words, how effective have your countermeasures been from your perspective? How many accounts have you terminated for cheating in 2024 so far? Comment and follow-up question. At this point in development, you are leaning heavily on players to report acts of perceived cheating. How many cheater bans have originated from in-game player-initiated reports in 2024? Follow-up. What is the false positive rate for these, quote, cheaters from in-game reports, aka how many reports didn't result in a disciplinary action, or what suspected cheaters were actually found to be probably not cheating? Last question in this category. Does your plan for combating cheating long-term rely on Discord or user-uploaded footage, or will this be phased out over time in favor of more robust in-game solutions? So lastly, there's a lot of conversation around the purpose of the marketplace system and to what extent, gear is relevant in a skill gear game. So that's not really, we could ask a lot of questions in that area, but I really want to focus on one, which is prior to the introduction of the new market system, when we were all just hanging out in chat channels and asking for price checks and selling and buying gear, we were also being advertised to fairly heavily by the RMT crowd. But since the adoption of the new system, I have personally lost all visibility on how prevalent the RMT is in the game. Based on anecdotal conversations across Discords and Reddit and everywhere else, it seems like it's still a problem. But my question to Iron Mace is, with the new marketplace system in place, most of us has lost a sense of transparency on the RMT situation. How do you guys feel? Are you happy with the current state of RMT in your game, or do you feel like there's more to do? Gonna pause here. We got a fight coming up. It's a barbarian. He's crushed the door. He's pushing me. I hit him with the crossbow shot. Looked like a chest shot. I'm gonna throw an axe that hits him in the head. Throw another axe that hits him in the head. I'm going to pop second wind here, and this fight should have been mine from the jump. Still, wow, close. Lots and lots of barbarians in the Goblin Caves these days. But yeah, so guys, if you've made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. But also, in the comments section or in my Discord, which I'm linking in the comments section below, I'm interested in more player feedback, more questions that can focus around data points to drive a greater context for the player base to understand what is going on in the game, what Iron Mace's thinking is about its current state of development. And I know that I have only just scratched the surface here. I'm expecting you guys to kind of step up and provide even additional questions that I would like to then package and then pass along to whatever content creator Iron Mace chooses for their next set of interviews. But guys, like, the macro message is this: it can't be all softballs. And for every question that you ask Iron Mace about, how's the new office, how are the new employees fitting in, all of that fluff, like, we need actual information to be conveyed. And it's clear, based on the last year and a half of early access testing, that Iron Mace is very uncomfortable, sharing this level of detail. And the purpose of journalism is to make people uncomfortable in pursuit of facts and the truth. And so I am strongly encouraging anyone to kind of follow this format and asking these questions. All right, another pusher. It's a ranger. I hit my shot, he hits his shot, he misses. I get the door closed. Have some axes. There's another axe. Man, I can't miss with these frannies today. You're not deep enough in. I'm on top of you. Poor ranger never had a chance. I've been playing a little ranger lately. Man, it feels bad. Like, I'm just not enjoying playing, in white lobbies as the ranger really at all. Like, you have to hit 100% of your shots or you just die. Same thing with the wizard. I know everybody talks about, like, the wizard and the warlock being OP. That must be like an ultra high gear wizard warlock problem for me right now, because both of those classes just feel like garbage to me right now in normals. I mean, once again, the ranger, if you hit 100% of your shots, then you're in an okay state. But if you miss like one shot, you're just going to be stat checked by pretty much any melee, like the rogue, the fighter, the barbarian, etc. But going back to what I was saying, yes, guys, my community is small, but they're smart and handsome, and so please come forward with questions you'd like to see me package up into this interview package. Iron Mace, I challenge you to come to the next interview, regardless of who gives it, with data points in furtherance of your perspective, with a clear, articulated message. And I think that this kind of interview structure will definitely facilitate that. As always, thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. And until next time, please leave a comment. Let's talk about questions that you would like to see answered by the Iron Mace dev team. Until next time, Koopa out.